I came back and it was totally burnt. So I can only imagine that a non-burnt version will taste even better. It doesn't look or taste the same as it did the last time that I did this. It's not like this is gonna go straight into the trash, but it probably should go straight into the trash. Hey guys, I'm coming on to give a little introduction first because this video turned out totally not the way I was expecting. I was planning to do kind of a tutorial on how to bake this vegetable focaccia bread, and it just turned out totally wrong. So instead of doing a whole tutorial and explaining what to do and then being like, oh, but never mind, don't do that, just know from the start that this isn't gonna work. I'm probably gonna cut out a lot of the details of the tutorial part of the recipe because it was obviously wrong somehow. And if you wanna see me try this again, maybe make a part 2 and hopefully get it right, leave me a comment, give me a thumbs up so I know you're interested, and maybe I will give this another shot. Hey guys, so a couple weeks ago I got in my Dinnerly meal kit box a kind of bonus extra recipe of this garden focaccia bread, which is, you've probably seen people making this. It's the focaccia, but then you like cut up vegetables and things on top and arrange it so it looks like flowers. I've always thought that this looked really pretty. I love seeing what other people make, and I'm just not a baker, so I had never had the inclination to do it myself, but since they were going to, you know, provide me all the ingredients and instructions, I figured I would try their recipe. However, it's a very long process. You have to let the dough rise overnight and then do it for like a few more hours, and then you finally get to make the bread, so it's like, you know, a day later you finally get to start baking. And so I went through this whole long process, and the temperature that it said to bake it at was really high, so I lowered it on my oven and did it for about half the time and made the mistake of thinking, well, I probably have a couple minutes, I can step away. I came back and it was totally burnt. So I'm gonna try it again. I'm gonna follow all the same instructions, except bake it at a much, much lower temperature for much less time and stand here and monitor it while it bakes, and hopefully I won't burn it. I will say, we still were able to eat it even with the top burnt. It was delicious, so I can only imagine that a non-burnt version will taste even better. So I'm not gonna like write out the recipe or anything. You'll just have to watch the video and follow along and take notes. But so today we're gonna do the first part where we put the like initial dough together and let it rise, and then it'll sit until tomorrow, and so then we'll come back tomorrow and do part 2. Okay, so the first thing we're gonna do is, in a big bowl, we're gonna mix together a 1/4 ounce of active dry yeast. Yep, luckily it comes in 1/4 ounce packets. 2 cups of warm water, and I'll talk about that in a second. 1 tablespoon of oil, and 4 teaspoons of sugar. And I am using my real measuring spoons. Usually I kind of eyeball stuff, but for baking, I know you need to be sort of more precise. So I brought out the measuring spoons and measuring cups. So let me start putting some of these dry ingredients in the bowl while I prepare the water. Okay, so for the water, I'm actually boiling some water right now, and I'm gonna pour it into a measuring cup. We need 2 cups. So the water is supposed to be warm water, and it should be between 100 and 110 degrees Fahrenheit. So the easiest way for me to do that was to boil it. Now we know it's, what, 212 degrees, and then I'm just gonna let it kind of cool off a little bit. I have my meat thermometer, so maybe that's not exact for measuring water temperature, but it's good enough. So I'm just gonna, you know, put that in here, and yeah, it's way too hot right now, but basically the point is, you don't want to use cold water for this, but you also don't want the water to be too warm, because the yeast is like a living thing, and so it's in here with the sugar. The sugar is going to be its food, and then the warm water needs to just be the right temperature to activate it. So if it's too cold, it won't work. If it's boiling, it's going to kill them all. So that's why it needs to be in that like 100 degrees range. So we'll let the water cool off and come back to that. In the meantime, I need to mix together our flour and our salt. Okay, I think we've just about reached that sweet spot. One other thing I want to mention is if you don't happen to have any kind of thermometer, just stick your finger in the water, and if it's like pleasantly warm and tolerable, it's probably good. When it was still in that like 140 degree range, it was really too warm to comfortably keep my finger in. So now we're going to take that warm water and whisk it into the bowl with the yeast, the sugar, and the oil. And then this just gets set aside for a few minutes and it will sort of become foamy as the yeast activates. So I'll show you what that looks like in a minute. Okay, so if we look at our yeast bowl, you'll see it is foamy now. It also smells, guess what, yeasty. So that means the yeast is activated in here. So now we're going to combine in the flour and salt mixture from previously. And you can mix that all together either with your hands or with a spoon like I am doing. And I know it seems right now very flour heavy, very dry ingredient heavy, but just keep mixing and stirring and folding it together and it will become totally incorporated together. So we want to mix this together until there's no trace left of the dry flour. So now we've done all of this, we've incorporated all the dry ingredients into the wet ingredients, and that's just the end of day one. So the next step at this point is we're going to proof the dough, which is basically just kind of let the yeast do its thing for a while. So it needs to sit for at least 8 hours, but you can leave it up to 24 hours. So it's about 1 p.m. on Friday. I'm gonna cover this up and we will come back to it as probably a Saturday morning activity. Okay, goodbye, little dough, do your yeasty thing and we'll see you tomorrow morning. All right, so it is about 9:30 on Saturday morning. Our dough has been here just proofing for about 20 hours now. And as you can see, it has greatly increased in size. It doesn't look or taste the same as it did the last time that I did this. It seems like a little looser. So hopefully this works out since I'm demonstrating it. But the next step of the process is we have to do one more thing and then let it sit for another couple hours. So I'm just knocking this out quickly. So on a floured surface with floured hands, we are supposed to kind of roll the dough into itself, kind of tuck it into itself to make a ball, and then we're going to leave it in its baking dish. Now the thing is, when I did this before, maybe this will work. When I did this before, it was kind of like too sticky to do anything with, so I couldn't really form it into a ball or anything. And well, maybe we'll be able to form it into something, but it doesn't feel like something that's gonna stay in any kind of shape. So I guess I'm making it into a ball. Maybe I need some more flour here. So I put down like a ton more flour, but I don't think it's really gonna ball up any more than this. But if you're following along at home and yours formed more of a solid ball, then what you're supposed to do is pour a 1/4 cup of oil into a 9x13 baking dish and then put this ball in it seam side down. And it doesn't really need to get like precisely into every corner at this point, because there's actually another step where we kind of do that, and then again once it bakes it'll sort of expand, I guess. But at this point we're just gonna leave it again, we're gonna cover it again, let it proof again, this time for 1.5 to 3 hours, and it should become soft, puffy, and double in size. Let's see. Okay, so now this dough has been proofing again for a couple more hours, and now we get to the really fun part. We get to decorate the bread. So first of all, I've preheated the oven. Again, Dinnerly's directions said 500 degrees. That's way too hot. I have it at 400 and I'll probably actually turn it down a little bit. And also I am going to be closely monitoring it the whole time I'm making this thing. Now the dough was supposed to have expanded in size again, and you see it really hasn't. I'm sort of regretting choosing to film. Okay, so I think I might have lost some of the stuff I just filmed, but basically I was saying that in the meantime I cut up some vegetables. So I have some red peppers, some red onion, and some scallions, which are for decorating the top of the bread, whatever we're making. The focaccia, at this point, we were supposed to be able to like extend it more into the corners and also make indentations with our fingers, which isn't really happening because for some reason this is coming out really liquidy. Also, I have preheated the oven. The instructions said 500 degrees. I'm doing 400, and I will probably turn it down and monitor it very closely because that just seems really high. So I don't know exactly what we're gonna be making here. It's gonna be something. So for now, I'm just gonna go ahead and, you know, lay out my vegetables in like a decorative kind of way. Okay, so now we're going to go ahead and bake this. We're supposed to bake until it's golden brown. The veggies get like a little shriveled, and they're saying 30 to 35 minutes, again at 500 degrees, which is crazy. So let's see how long this actually takes, and it's gonna be at 400 degrees. Okay, I'm seriously watching this like a hawk. We are a little over 5 minutes in, and it's still not done. Okay. Okay, this is very exciting. I think it's been like 13 minutes and something is happening here. The oil is kind of bubbling. You can see maybe it's starting to get brown on the edges, but it's still definitely not done, so we'll let it keep going. All right, it's been about 20 minutes total now, and I think I really have to start keeping a closer eye because, ooh, steamy. Now the vegetables are kind of starting to brown more. So it's been the full half hour. Let's see how we're looking. I see the oil is bubbling. So the vegetables are getting pretty brown, kind of shriveled. The bread part is still pretty pale. So maybe I'll let it go for another 5 or 10 minutes? I don't know. This is so weird. This is gonna be real messed up. It's been about 35 minutes and I'm gonna call this done because the vegetables are getting pretty browned and I don't want to burn them. The bread part is kind of just starting to brown. So here's how the final product is looking. As you can see, still a ton of oil in here, and it's supposed to cool for 30 minutes before we cut into it. So I will be back to see how that turns out. All right, well, I don't know how this is gonna go. It's been sitting here cooling for a little bit. The oil in the dish has pretty much all absorbed somehow. So, oh gosh, I'm just gonna cut a piece off. I will confess, I tried a little corner piece that was kind of sticking out and it was not great. Again, when I made this focaccia before, even though I burnt it, if you could get past the top of it was burnt, the actual bread part was pretty good. This one, I'm not sure about. It doesn't seem as like fluffy and puffy. So here's how it looks on the inside. And let's see. Oh, it's hard. Oh my gosh. Okay. No, there is something very wrong with this. It's edible, obviously. I think we will eat it. Between my husband and I, he'll eat anything. It's not like this is gonna go straight into the trash, but it probably should go straight into the trash. I don't know what I did wrong, but it's like very hard and dense. Like I said, it never really like puffed up like the original one did, and it stayed very liquidy. So I think that's how it ended up this way. I mean, like the roasted vegetable part, that's good. But yeah, the bread part of it, I don't know what happened, but it turned out very strange. It's almost like sour tasting, and it's had kind of a sour smell to it the whole time. I don't know if that's related to the yeast in some way. So I guess thank you for joining me on this focaccia journey, and if you enjoyed it, give me a thumbs up, and if you would like to see me try to attempt this again, I'm really not a baker, I'm a cook, so if you want me to try to bake this again, leave me a comment to let me know, and maybe I'll film a sequel, and maybe we'll get it right this time. So thanks for watching, and I will see you next time. Bye!